All right, now we're not talking about all of that. We're also talking about food. Today is Commodities Day. We're talking about evaporated milk, and we've seen the average price of a tin of evaporated, about 160 gram, has increased by 28.57%. That's year on year from about 900. And then that, of course, that reflects the inflationary pressures which we have seen come on in the country. Now, in December, we saw food inflation slow to 39.84%. Can we expect that the price of evaporated milk will also reflect this? We have Miriam Ode now, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, joining us virtually from Victoria Island. Hi, Miriam. Can we expect the price of evaporated milk to reduce in the coming days?
Good afternoon, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you.
So to answer your question, I would like to give more context to the situation. We know that milk has actually been one of the commodities that have been driving the increase in food inflation in Nigeria. And last time we saw month-on-month food inflation increase, which was in November 2024, we saw that it was recorded that both powdered and fresh milk, which evaporated milk is gotten from, were some of the reasons why we saw this increase in the domestic food inflation rate. But it's still important to note that food inflation is actually just an indicator of the price movement of commodities in the food basket. So this means that because we have seen a decline in the food inflation rate, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to see a corresponding decline in the prices of every commodity in the food basket. And milk, for example, evaporated milk is one of the commodities that is not going to experience a decline in its price, because we expect its price to remain elevated in the near term, driven by increased demand brought on by the Valentine's season. And as we know, chocolate is actually one of the commodities that is commonly gifted during this period, and milk is actually one ingredient used in the production of some chocolates. So it is expected that the higher demand for chocolates is actually going to create an increased demand in the demand for milk, and resultantly an increase in in price of domestic milk. But we know that Nigeria is actually a net importer of milk to meet up with its domestic demand. And so with the stabilization of the exchange rate in January, sorry, so about 1,630 naira to a dollar, we expect that this stabilization could offer some relief to the domestic price of milk.
Yeah, so we still see Nigeria's dairy import bill really high at $1.5 billion annually. Are we anywhere close to self-sufficiency?
There's still some progress to be done, and we have the potential to actually reach self-sufficiency. Like Nigeria is actually one of the top 5 African countries with the largest cattle head population in Africa. And what we're seeing is that the government has tried to tap into this potential of the dairy industry. And just 8 months ago, we saw that the federal government, unveiled the National Dairy Program, which is anticipated to achieve the objective of increased domestic milk supply and also achieve self-sustainability and self-sufficiency in milk production. But there are obviously some challenges that are preventing us from reaching this objective, and one of which is the traditional pastoral system, which is still being used in the northern region, where over 90% of our cattle population is being reared. And we also need to take into account the kind of cattle that are bred in the northern region. And we bred the indigenous breed of cattle, which can only produce about 0.5 to 2 liters of milk per day. And when we compare this to the exotic or special breed bred in countries like Kenya that can produce 20 liters per day, we see that there's a huge gap that we could actually be profiting from if we could properly bred our cattle to be able to reach this potential. So, and also there's the fact that most of our cattle production is done in the informal sector, and to be able to integrate this informal sector into the formal sector, it will require a lot of quality control, because we don't know how good this quality of milk is. And so to integrate that, we might lose some milk in the process, further reducing the milk production and the milk supply. And we know that Nigeria consumes about 1.6 billion liters of milk per day. So we have a lot of demand but limited supply.
Yeah, another area of potential that we have that we're not able to, at least at this time, explore. But thank you so much, Miriam Ode, for your perspective this afternoon, analyst with Financial Derivatives Company.